Okay, tell me what. Right, okay. Yeah, I wrote this one about 3 or 4 months ago. It was based on a poem I'd written, a previous poem on a Lakeland catalogue that I'd got through my door, and all these things that you're supposed to have to make your life wonderful. And I didn't actually want any of them. And similarly, I received a holiday brochure saying about all these wonderful places that you can go and do this and do that. And I thought, you know what? I don't really want to do any of them. So I wrote a poem based on that. And my first poem is called Marvelous Marrakesh and Other Destinations. Marvelous Marrakesh, with its tropical gardens, history, and markets. Seychelles Discovery Cruise. Wildlife's abundant here. Seabird colonies, marine life, and coconut plantations await, should I be enticed by such things. Even South Africa's mighty Victoria Falls, as it empties 550 milliliters or something of water into a chasm, fails to inspire me. Why is this? I don't know. For there are many different places with fascinating histories to explore. I seem to have lost the motivation to travel great distances, see the sights. For going away from you now, anywhere too far, is the wrong direction for me. Too painful to contemplate. Maybe I shouldn't deny myself the pleasure of travel to faraway places. But everything seems so grey and landscapes bland without you. Thank you. That was my first one. My second one is one out of one of the Croydon Poetry Hour anthologies. I can't remember the theme. Actually, yes, I can because it's here. It's to do with, no, I can't remember. Oh, anger or regret. I don't know why I wrote this one, but anyway, it is what it is. I've called it Untouched Day. First thing in the morning, slow wake up. Listen to nature's voice, permeate the silence. No man-made sounds at this hour, just gentle bird song, the occasional animal call. I lie in the beginnings of the dawn, watch the sun begin its day in the east, shimmering on my horizon. Nothing moves at this moment, no people or vehicles to spoil the peace. I can just listen to the landscape waking up before drifting off into slumber again. When I next wake, I hear cars, conversation, maybe a phone ringing somewhere. The natural world drowned out by man.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, Mohammed. Vivian, can I prevail on you to read your love poem, your Marrakesh one again for Mohammed? It's a very lovely poem.
Cool. Yeah,
yes, I'd love to hear it. Yes.
Yeah, just a second. I've closed my notebook now, so you'll have to just. Oh, I've got it. Okay. Let's count as my third poem then.
No, you can have the third poem.
All right. Okay. Okay. Marvelous Marrakesh and Other Destinations. Marvelous Marrakesh, with its tropical gardens, history and markets. Seychelles Discovery Cruise. Wildlife's abundant here. Seabird colonies, marine life, and coconut plantations await, should I be enticed by such things. Even South Africa's mighty Victoria Falls, as it empties 550 ml of water, whatever that is, into a chasm, fails to inspire me. Why is this? I don't know. For there are many different places with fascinating histories to explore. I seem to have lost the motivation to travel great distances, see the sights. For going away from you now, anywhere too far, is the wrong direction for me. Too painful to contemplate. Maybe I shouldn't deny myself the pleasure of travel to faraway places, but everything seems so grey and landscapes bland without you.
Lovely and tender.
Thank you.
Can we have your next one? Have you got another one ready?
Yeah, I've got one more, but it's not by me. It's by Owen Shears.
Right.
And Nick will like this one because it's a nature one called Winter Swans. The clouds had given their all. 2 days of rain, and then a break in which we walked. The waterlogged earth gulping for breath at our feet as we skirted the lake, silent and apart. Until the swans came and stopped us, with a show of tipping in unison, as if rolling weights down their bodies to their heads. They halved themselves in the dark water. Icebergs of white feather paused before returning again like boats, righting in rough weather. They mate for life, you said as they left, porcelain over the stilling water. I didn't reply, but as we moved on through the afternoon light, slow stepping in the lake's shingle and sand, I noticed our hands that had somehow swum the distance between us and folded one over the other like a pair of wings settling after flight. Thank you.
Beautifully written.
Thank
isn't
you.
it?
Yes,
Owen
it is.
Shears. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. And Steve, could we have you next, please? You're muted. That's it.
I have a long poem of about 10 minutes. I can read a section of it or the whole thing. What do you think, George?
What's the vote? I'm happy to hear it in its entirety. We've got loads of time tonight.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear it all. I don't know what the others think.
Well, I think it depends if it's good. If
course
it's up
it
to
is,
Steve's
Nick.
normal quality, then yeah, we'll hear it all, please.
Yes. I think you've got the thumbs up there.
Okay, so part of this is me and part of it is Ovid, because the first few verses are my kind of pressy of part of Ovid's story of Niobe. And then there's a central section where I've basically adapted in a translation of the story. And then there's a kind of couple of verses of comment at the end. I don't think I'll tell you the story, you might know it already, but hopefully the poem will tell the story in itself. The story of Niobe reimagined. Queen Niobe knew Arachne well, the weaver who was punished by the goddess Pallas due to jealousy and spitefulness. And out of grief and out of anger, not of pride as many biased recollections blandly state, she makes a boast to Leto, mother of Diana and Apollo. Titan's daughter, look at your poor progeny, a meager pair. Equate them with my mighty brood, 14 compared to 2 of yours. The gods may rule and try their best to keep the human race oppressed, but when it comes to giving birth, they lack the will to reproduce. If any words could be consigned to famous final words, it's these. From distant clouds, the son and daughter of the mother just maligned, Apollo and Diana came to kill Niobe's brood with deadly bows and arrows and intent. The powerful will win the day, the weak will not. The powerful will win the day, the weak will not. The powerful will often win the day, the weak will not. The powerful will often win the day, the weak will not. The powerful will nearly always win the day, the weak will not. The powerful will nearly always win the day, the weak will not. The powerful will win, the weak will not. The powerful will win, the weak will not. The powerful are powerful, the powerful are powerful. The powerful are pitiful, the powerful are pitiful. The powerful are weak, the weak are powerful. The powerful are weak, the weak are powerful. The weak are always weak because they think they're weak. The weak are always weak because they think they're weak. The powerful will have their day, the weak will not. The powerful will have their day, the weak will not. Outside the walls there lay a training ground. a sandy surface far extending round the city where it daily sees Niobe's sons, a young and healthy breed, in exercise and riding on their steeds. Of these Ismenos, who by birth had been the first fair issue of the fruitful queen, was drawing reins to guide his stately horse around the compass of the circling course, when suddenly he felt a piercing pain. A shaft had struck and split his groin. The reins were drooping from his hand. He slowly sank and tumbled on the sand. Sipylus next received a speeding dart, discharged and charged with godlike art. It flew into his neck and trembling stood, and at his throat displayed a point besmeared with blood. Young Phaedimus was next. He was their aim, both him and Tantalus, who bore his grandsire's name. The pair, when other exercise was done, would try the wrestlers' oily sport for fun, and straining nerves their skill expressed in friendly grappling, joining breast to breast, when from a bending bow an arrow quickly sent through both their oiling, grappling bodies went. Both groaned and writhed their limbs in pain, and fell together bleeding on the plain. With grief Alphena saw their doleful plight, and smote his breast, and sickened at the sight. To succor ran with eager haste, and fondly stiffened limbs embraced. But in the action he received a dart, Apollo guided, piercing through the heart. And as he drew it forth, his midriff tore, the jagged point more fleshy fragments bore, and life came out in streams of purple gore. And Damastheon, by a double wound, both innocent and young, lay on the ground. Fixed in his ham a steely point, stuck through his knee and pierced the nervous joint. And as he stooped to tug the painful dart, another struck him in the heart. Ilonius the last with terror stands, and lifts in prayer his pleading hands. Apollo saw too late the bending bow had sent a shaft and struck a fatal blow, which yet but gently gored his tender side. So by a slight and easy wound he died. Niobe's daughters soon will follow suit. Phthia, stricken in the heart, in vain attempts to draw the dart. Her youth defies, and then to death resigns her fate, and on her brother's corpse reclines. And Thera, by her dying sister, feels her breast explode apart, and sees a piercing dart appear, and breathes away her hopes and fears. In flight, Chione's hopes are placed. In hiding from her fate, she seeks some shelter, fills the air with shrieks, but all in vain. Phrygia, Chaeus, Iphidia see their sisters die, and see the arrows fly, and stare at this phenomenon, and as they stare, 3 arrows fall, transfixing their absorption, and absorbed within once vibrant bodies now prepared for passing. Thus 6 daughters found their way to death, each life cut short by fatal wounds. The last alive was Chloris, as Niobe calls the gods to leave her youngest daughter, and implores the great Diana, grant me this. Poor Chloris dies by secret arrow, winged with death. Her parting lips could only ask in vain for breath. The daughters died, but were not named in Ovid's story. Furthermore, the language used describing this was inconsistent in its meter, unconvincing in its tone, and so I had to work my craft, as basic as it was, to make the final passage come to life and mark Niobe's daughter's death. Phrygia, Chloris, Phthia, Chione, Thera, Chaeus, Iphidia, murdered in their native city, killed by arrows from the clouds. Defiance of the gods' presumption, saying things or doing things that shame a victim just for pleasure. All reactions are revenge, an arrogance or denigration just to seem superior, a pride that blinds complacency, mistaken overconfidence. Had fate and gods not intervened, the sons and daughters might have been philosophers and poets, doctors, artists, playwrights, physicists. Phrygia, Chloris, Phthia, Chione, Thera, Chaeus, Iphidia, Phaedimus, Ilonius, Ismenos, Sipylus, Alphena, Tantalus, and Damastheon, murdered in their native city, killed by arrows from the clouds.
I love the way you hinged it all together. The powerful will always win the day, and you know, the repetition of that and everything hung on that, and it's just a really well done, really well performed as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great poem and very prescient as well, obviously, with what's going on today. And what's interesting that I read some American researcher, and the first Black female slave poet to be published in America did a translation of this poem.
Really? Yeah.
So it obviously rang a bell with her.
Yeah, across continents and time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Steve. You're going to be around for part 2 as well? Yeah.
I'm afraid not, but I'll be around for the rest. I've got to go around 9ish, something like that.
Okay, all right then. Mohammed, can we hear from you now, please? If you unmute.
And it's
Hello.
Mohammed's
Hello.
birthday soon as well, isn't it?
Yes,
Is
on
it?
the 23rd, Sunday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, shall we get started?
So,
with
you're not one of Midnight's children, you're one of Midsummer's children.
I am, yes. Yeah, my brother, my younger brother, his birthday is 8th January. So basically he's a winter's child and I'm a
Right.
summer's child, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so right, shall we start? I'll start with a song that was recorded on the 21st of June, 1966, and the 21st of June is what is today. She said, I know what it's like to be dead. I know what it is to be sad. And she's making me feel like I've never been born. I said, who put all those things in your head? Things that make me feel like I'm mad. And you're making me feel like I've never been born. Right, just a snippet, I suppose. It's actually a rather, it makes you broody and bluesy, but I'm trying to put some fun into it in this song by the one and only Beatles. Yeah. Okay. My first one echoes my birthday sentiment. This birthday, I'll say, I could be a star among many a sprinkling of atoms and winds. When the moon is the brightest, giving light to dreaming souls. I might be a part of the cosmos, where the tender heart becomes permanent, and the seekers of knowledge gather in light beams to be existence. The world can be without me one of these days, when I'm desperate to see other places. Till then, I'll clutch my roses and warble and croon in all color. Thank you. And the next is Cry of the Refugee. Now, this one is because the Refugee Week is upon us. And so this one is a persona poem about a refugee. I can't find a place to lay my head for a night of rest. I got turned away where the sun beats hard and I crave for sleep. My eyes are restless, they sting or burn. Some turned a blind eye. I cannot find my high ground, somewhere to conceal my weary heart. I want to be a refugee, but I only get stern warnings that I'm a renegade. Right. So that is a rather sad poem, I suppose. And that's called The Cry of the Refugee, Cry of the Refugee. Okay, now Boris, I want to finish my first session with a little bit of Boris. Boris is now, I understand he does some poetry, so we're going to get him to say, he's not going to say his boisterous speech today. There's no boisterous speech written by somebody else. It's just him and his poem, yeah? So this is him reading. Thank you very much. and he's mellowed somewhat. He's still planning his comeback. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Boris plans his comeback. I promise to return, bringing chaos and sleaze. I'll see buildings burn and fail with more disease. I'll raise tax again and upgrade lettuce. I'll be lever, pain, and break more laws. Or lawsus, I suppose. You could say lawsus. I'll befriend Trump and ignore the homeless and have the hump against Labour, no less. Thank you. It's just one of those. Still work in progress. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely.
Thank you very much.
Little refugee poem was very touching. I think we should always stand with the
Oh,
oppressed.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I suppose you've got to see how they're suffering, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Okay, Mohammed, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You got your wish, Nick, that you messages across to us all while Mohammed was reading. Where's Boris, you said? And then he suddenly appeared. Anyway, it's your turn now, Nick. It's your turn.
I summoned him.
You did, like a genius.
Don't do it again.
You rubbed his lamp.
I'm sorry.
Well, he gets on your wick anyway, so there's another metaphor.
Well,
anyway,
true.
okay.
So, apropos of nothing at all, this one's called Elections. They would have you live in fear. It's us or them. It's left or right. The future is always far from clear, but disaster always in plain sight. It's us or them. It's left or right. Good and evil, chaos, law, with disaster always in plain sight. Batten the hatches, lock the door. Good and evil, chaos, law, Armageddon knocking on your heart. Batten the hatches, lock the door. Pray that you can play your part. Armageddon knocking on your heart, the drumbeat of the age we live in. Pray that you can play your part. No place left for love or giving. The drumbeat of the age we live in, from politicians of all hues. No place left for love or giving. It's only evil that makes the news. From politicians of all hues, vote to keep your freedom safe. It's only evil that makes the news. Welcome to our database. Vote to keep your freedom safe. We need your vote and your donation. Welcome to our database when you safeguard our noble nation. We need your vote and your donation. The future is always very clear. When you safeguard our noble nation, we would have you live in fear. The only thing is, when I've got the thing up so I can read it, I can't see your reactions. I assume.
Oh, we're all clapping.
That's all right then.
Yeah, but no, we're all happy. We just feel a bit cheaty because you've only read one.
Well, I'm going to read some more then.
Very good. Thank you.
This is writing from Kazakhstan. Poetry from somewhere else, as open as the step that birthed it, as varied as the clouds across the sky. So let's take one theme, one view, practice being somewhere else, feel winds that blew above the Mongol hordes, obliterating those that failed to bend, not fully comprehending grass or horse. The warlords cross from time's horizon, storms dispersed into wisps of fear, the blood and pain reduced to numbers, like livestock cropping blades of grass. In geological time, seconds have passed. Genghis, Stalin, too many others run together, and the whole world runs with blood, as uncountable as rain or wind-blown dust. Oh, wounded world, I pity you. We cannot comprehend a fraction of your pain. Rest your head upon this poet's shoulder, sigh across the steps, and let it go. And
We're
for
all
my-
happy. We're still happy, Nick. Carry on.
And for my third one, I'm going to make you slightly happier, but I'm going to cheat massively. And claim this is one poem and not 21 haikus. Woodland birds. Small birds twittering, a range of calls announcing tits, finches, warblers. High on a bare branch, robin pouring vibrant trills into chill spring air. Within her thicket, wren jabbers forth expletives, feisty little tyke. Blackcaps flowing trills, rarely seen but often heard, serenading woodlands. The crow's harsh caw, calling everything he sees, marshalling the troops. The two-note chiff-chaff, that's all he seems to have to say. Chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff, chiff. The one-note great tit, calling out his beauty here, plumage all he needs. Jay's long warning scream, when you look this good, no need to crow about it. He's anything but dull, liquid, sweet-sounding dunnock, ground-loving sparrow. Harsh foreign chatter adds bold colour from a broad, ring-necked parakeet. Melody master, playing through variations, clever little song thrush. A treetop chatter, a flock of long-tailed tits pass, always moving on. From his pinkish breast, his pink alarm rings out, blue-capped chaffinch. Name almost swallowed in her throat, yet bursting out, quick 1, 2, cuckoo. Is everybody present? Yes, of course, of course, of course. Rooks on roll call. Rustling in bushes, blackbird leaves the undergrowth, singing out at dusk. Jack, Jack, time to go. Roost is ready to move on. Jackdaws gathering. Long, deep, sonorous wood pigeon calls her love to hear woodland pillow talk. Blackbird and robin singing dynamic duets. Birdsong fills the air. After dusk, the nightjar tries to spook, imitating mechanical frogs. And the nightingale, a rich, warm voice splits the air, always perfection.
Like a bunch of ripe grapes, they hang well together. Well done. Very nice. Now we're going to,
You say so, it sounds vaguely sort of
well,
down.
it's a compliment. Now we're going to go to the land
I'll
of ice
take it as a
and fire.
compliment.
We're going to land of ice and fire. Speaking to Peter.
Well,
who's
I'm
new-
going to
newly
read three,
shorn.
going to read 3 poems by John Clare. So out in
Right.
the Leicestershire countryside. The Hollow Tree. How oft a summer shower hath started me to seek for shelter in a hollow tree, old huge ash, dotterel, wasted to a shell, whose vigorous head still grew and flourished well, where 10 might sit upon the battered floor and still look round, discovering room for more. And he who chose a hermit life to share might have a door and make a cabin there. They seemed so like a house that our desires would call them so, and make our gypsy fires and eat field dinners of the juicy peas, till we were wet and drabbled to the knees. But in our old tree house, rain as it might, not one drop fell, although it rained till night. And then Salter's Tree. Huge elm, huge elm, thy rifted trunk all notch and scarred, like to a warrior's destiny. I love to stretch me often on such shadowed sward and hear the sighs of summer leaves above, or on thy buttressed roots to sit and lean in careless attitude, and there reflect on times and deeds and darings that have been, old castaways now, swallowed in neglect, while thou art towering in thy strength of heart, stirring the soul to vain imaginings, in which life's sordid being hath no part. The wind in that eternal ditty sings, humming of future things that burn the mind, to leave some fragment of itself behind. And the crab tree. Spring comes anew, and brings each little pledge that still as wont my childish heart deceives. I stoop again for violets in the hedge, among the ivy and old withered leaves, and often mark amid the clumps of sedge the pooty shells I gathered when a boy. But cares have claimed me many an evil day, and chilled the relish which I had for joy. Yet when crab blossoms blush among the may, as wont in years gone by, I scramble now up mid the bramble for my old esteems, filling my hands with many a blooming bough, till the heart stirring past as present seems, save the bright sunshine of those fairy dreams. John Clare.
Wonderful. He loves his nature, didn't he? Wonderful. My printer's packed up, unfortunately, so I'll have to read off my phone, so bear with me. And also Nick and Vivian have to bear with me because they've already seen these, because we exchange our drafts each month, stuff we write. Anyway, this is based on an article that Joni Mitchell wrote, actually, and I thought it was very profound, so I did a poem around it. At times I have journeyed without learning, by good fortune stopping once to make a home, when by chance I glanced aside to take notice. We all have our shallow and our deep sides, in a world that only values the shallow side. The prophets and diviners are now banished, obliterating any understanding of depth. We now live in a time of presentation, not substance, and ourselves become superficial, attracted to the instant ephemeral that floats in the air like so much dust. The truth is, we are sold a romance based on the uncertainty of never knowing whether we ourselves are truly valued by the objects of our desire, which become the substances we crave. This has been so in me and in others around me, and some will never get clean of the addiction. Whilst my shallow puddle enlarged, it did not engulf me, for my heart always yearned for depth, even when splashing in the mud. This is not what you truly want, the voice kept saying within me. A glossy magazine spoke of the end of sex and printed a new truth. If you want endless repetition, see a lot of different people. If you want infinite variety, stay with one. Within this, examine dating, when you give it all your best lines again and again. When the macho might appeal, give it the macho. Or when softness does, give it the tender. You repeat lines and stories so often over and over until the routine only leads you to falling in love with yourself. That doesn't wash with a full-time love who learns each bit of your hackneyed self. In the hearing of this, things die to become rekindled. And in the mutuality of sharing, love is reborn. The process isn't easy, and some take to the hills at the first gust of a cold wind. With shallowness on show, you become an arsehole in their eyes, and they do in yours. It's a pain, but you get past it and get closer. A way of loving evolves that is light years away from the neurotic version that the media has taught us. In fact, reaching this destination is like being swaddled in a warm blanket. That's that one. Now, and this next one, I think there's a kind of German children's story called Winking, Blinking and Nod, which I'm going to try and find, search. Oh, it's coming up. All other people's poems, but they mentioned winking at each other. It's not. Let's try another word. Winking. Let's just put blinking and nodding here. See that comes. Blinking. I'll put blinken. Right. Sorry, I'm doing a TED here. Got it. Right, sorry about that. Blinken can find no peace east of Eden, where Cain was exiled to the land of Nod for the sin of killing a brother, thus offending Almighty God. Now brothers and sisters are killed, and the new God, the USA, is a culprit secretly winking and supplying the bombs every day. There you go. I've got some more, but we can have a part two. So we have a cup of tea time, I think, everybody? Well, we can start. Okay, can we start with you again, Vivian, please? Because you wanted to come on first, didn't you?
Yeah, that's fine. Just two I've picked at random. The first one is from Simon Armitage's Blossom Eyes book that I bought from the National Trust. And this poem is called Profusion.
Huh.
We plucked a poem out of a book, scissored it off while the words and letters still popped, while the lines and stanzas curtsied and blushed. We dried and pressed it between the years, between cherry leaves. That makes no sense. Then folded and folded it, posted it into a hole in a stone fruit tree. It was an old-style, home-style poem. Meaning what? Meaning blossom as light, blossom as hope, after winter's tunnel, after the narrow dark. The plan was to reignite the living flame if the flame went out. Hey presto, in April. The poem budded and bloomed, and we read it, chanted it, knew it by heart. But it blossomed again in July, then again in December, drunk on meltwater, drugged with the tepid milk of the winter sun. What had we done? And the other one is a poem which I quite like called, it's by Robert Herrick, Delight in Disorder. You probably all know it anyway. A sweet disorder in the dress, kindles in clothes a wantonness, a lawn about the shoulders thrown into a fine distraction, an erring lace which here and there enthralls the crimson stomacher, a cuff neglectful and thereby ribbons to flow confusedly, a winning wave deserving note in the tempestuous petticoat, a careless shoestring in whose tie I see a wild civility do more bewitch me than when art is too precise in every part. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you.
I don't think what we write will be valued in 500 years' time, will it?
I doubt it.
Probably not 500 minutes.
I doubt it. Anyway, I'm going to shoot off now.
Yeah, okay,
have a nice rest of the session. I'll catch up with you guys soon.
Bye-bye,
Cheers.
Vivian.
Bye, Peter. Bye, Steve. Bye,
Bye,
George. Bye, Nick. And bye, me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Right, and now we're going to see Steve because he's got to go by 9 o'clock, or he turn into a pumpkin or an ovid.
I'm going to do something. I've been working on some kind of experimental verse that plays with something you were talking about earlier. Hang on a sec. I'll just find it. Sorry, got it. Oh yes, here we are. Yeah, play with this idea of repetition. What you were talking about, George, the idea that we live in a superficial society full of repetition, etc., etc. I thought, well, for a part of a poem, let's try and embrace it So there's a story of Salmacis hermaphrodites in Hermaphroditus in Metamorphoses, where Salmacis meets Hermaphroditus and they couple to the nth degree and become as one. And I'm using some contemporary word cis, which means, you know, kind of comfortable in your own sexuality, and trans obviously means not. And you play with this thing and see it as a metaphor, perhaps this idea that, you know, when you write a poem, you think it's absolutely brilliant, you know, and then you wake up the next day and you think it's absolutely awful and you have to change, and that's a never-ending kind of cycle. So, a Salmacis apotheosis. Cis becoming, 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 trans 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 becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming, cis becoming, trans becoming, trans becoming, cis becoming. Once upon a time I stood as lazy idle Salmacis, a Salmacis apotheosis, Salmacis apotheosis, Salmacis, Salma metamorphosis apotheosis, Salma metamorphosis apotheosis, Salma metamorphosis, and rock and roll and choruses, and Holly came from Miami, FLA, and once upon a time I stood as lazy idle Salmacis, a Salma metamorphosis, a Salma metamorphosis, and once upon a time I stood as lazy idle Salmacis, and those who swim, if woman enters, she may rise half man, if man jumps in, he'll bathe in, joined by woman, supple, muscled, half and half, and once upon a time I stood as lazy idle Salmacis. Diana then addressed her double devotee and gave a secret virtue to the flood and flavored water's magic sauce to make the newborn lover's wishes good. A Salmacis apotheosis, Salmacis apotheosis, lines of verse without a trace of what is deemed misogyny. A Salmacis apotheosis, Salmacis apotheosis, lines of verse without a trace of what is deemed complacency. A Salmacis apotheosis, Salmacis apotheosis, lines of verse without a trace of what is deemed transphobia. A Salmacis apotheosis, Salmacis apotheosis, what is deemed misogyny. A Salmacis apotheosis, what is deemed complacency. A Salmacis apotheosis, what is deemed transphobia, transphobia, transphobia. A Salmacis apotheosis. Once upon a time I stood as lazy idle Salmacis apotheosis.
That is brilliant. That is absolutely wonderful. It is like an evolution of jazz poetry, but you even managed to work in Velvet Underground into it. So
Glad you spotted it, George. Yes.
yes.
Well, it sounds better when Mila and Lorraine do it as a double act, because we can kind of share every fourth line. We'll swap, so it's just in one breath then. But obviously, if one person does it, then, you know, one has to breathe, sadly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful evolution.
Don't feel you have to.
It's very good. Isn't it? Well,
I don't think you've got any choice in it, Nick, really.
Only one way
It's
to
not a
follow
voluntary thing.
Yeah, you can learn cyclic breathing, can't you? Practice a didgeridoo for a couple of years.
Yeah. Trumpeters know how to cyclic breathe, don't they, as well? Yeah.
Well, tantric breathing. You can have tantric breathing, can you?
Yeah, okay. Homework, obviously. Yeah, good. Thanks for that,
guys. Right. Nick, you're the only person who can possibly even try to follow that.
Right.
Yeah, go on then.
This is after Sarvin Afarinesh.
Yeah, Afarinesh, yeah.
There's something about pistachios. There's something about pistachios, the greenish tinge beneath the brown, not quite healthy, not quite right, the fibrous outer skin that fails to wrap the kernel of life within, the bitter sweetness, almost wholesome, wholly strange. There's something about pistachios. You become accustomed after a few, reach out for more, prize each morsel from its part-open shell until you find one that abruptly looks like death or drops an unexpected bitter taste. There's something about pistachios, the way they hold their shells ajar, promising a subtle sweetness, meaty, crunchy, slightly soft, tempting you to take their fruit like goblin men, like fairy folk.
Nick Aldridge, the only guy who can make a nut sound sexy.
I might have borrowed from Christina Rossetti as well.
Okay.
But that was so obvious. I didn't think I needed to mention it.
Have you got another one for us?
This is discontinuous.
Oh, yes. Nice.
Why do you insist that time is this, an arrow, a direction, regular like clockwork? Have you never woken in a comfortable chair? Did time not stop when you weren't there? Have you never remembered that moment so vivid, smelt lavender, lilac, felt the touch of her hand? Right here, right now, time spins all directions. For some of us dragging, for some of us fizzing, scared of the future or fixed in the past, the gift of the present, with you here at last.
Oh, that's lovely, Nick. Very tender, that. You're having a tender moment there, aren't you?
Yeah, and this one was inspired by Croydon.
Right.
At least in part. It's called White Plastic Bag. To be truly spineless requires great flexibility when pushed to bend, when pulled to give, to fold like origami paper, taking on the form of a bird, to glide when launched with nothing but air to support your weight and carry those you love, aiming to be unbreakable or at least resilient. Even when deflated, a gust of air will fill a bag, send it flying over roads, soaring over tower blocks, going where the winds will.
Nice. Nice. Is that it then?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've got to go, guys. So I'll see
Yeah.
you all soon, hopefully. Thanks. Yeah, lovely to see you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, Steve.
Bye,
Cheers,
Steve.
Steve.
Take care, guys. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Mohammed appeared and disappeared, so I don't know what's happened with him. So
His picture froze, so whether he's having trouble with the
no, he might be okay. Maybe he's hearing us. Yeah, he is. That's good. He's there, but he's muted and frozen.
Not very frozen. I can see him move.
Yeah.
Hello.
Good.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, Mohammed.
Hello.
Are you all good to go? I've got a political poem for you later on, and it's about someone called Risky Sunk or something like that.
Okay.
I think he knows.
Is he at the Titanic exhibition?
Yes.
It will be on the 4th of July.
I think Thatcher wouldn't call him a wet after his announcement. Anyway, carry on, Mohammed, please.
Okay. So before the computer conks out or whatever, bandwidth of broadband or whatever happens, I think I'm becoming a technophobe. Let's technologically challenged, basically, at this point, I think. Let me just crack on and give you a couple of poems. One is A Too Hot Sun. The sun is hotter now. It burns the skin. Poverty makes you human. Some are helpless.
Oh, it's such a shame. It keeps conking.
Muddy water. It's just difficult. That does not make the world's problem.
I think you've got a power supply problem there. Are you working on batteries or something, Mohammed? Is it charged up properly? Because you keep freezing. I lost you.
It is probably broadband speeds, or as Nick said narrowband speeds.
Narrowband speed, yeah. Well, hopefully you can try and join us later. It's a shame, isn't it? This is the trouble with Zoom. It's so frustrating.
Yes,
Yeah.
Peter, you've got one for us at all?
I have. Going to read some by Paddy Bush.
Sorry, Mohammed, we've moved on to Peter because you're having a technical problem. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Right. Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got so many marked. Listen, planting garlic. 1. The 10th of January. I must be mad, my neighbour says, as I prepare the ground. But the gleam on pike after sunlit pike full of seaweed belies the season. Foresees the spring in the sodden earth that clings in black lumps to my boots. I mark my ridge, the spade awkward in the sticky clay, then shovel up from the furrow. Dark rectangle shapes itself slowly over the seaweed. Now it will be drying, silently coaxing the rich fronds towards their sweet decay. 2. I prise open a bulb, my fingers all at once releasing hints of sap like a memory in the frosty air. The separated cloves look fit to burst with newness, gleaming on the clay like stars that have dropped to earth. Here, spread out, are feasts to come, with mussels opening in anticipation, tomatoes and herbs racing to the smell. And there will be the conjuring of summer when the door of the shed creaks open on plaited sunshine stored in airy bunches. 3. And may there be no need for any cures, no catching the breath to be eased by infusions, or a clove in red fat flannel around the neck, nor for a clove to be anxiously pressed into the shoes of children to ward off the hectic red cheeks of consumption, nor yet for the clove stitched tight into the tails of cattle to purify blood and water against the black disease. Now is my time for a cleansing of the blood. Here in this garden, this day and all, this magic is a cure beyond belief. 4. 2 inches deep, 6 inches apart. The cloves pattern the soil. I repeat the instructions like a mantra as I plant. I sniff at the pungency that's charm against werewolves and vampires, and I place my cloves in exorcism of all the darkness I fear within and without myself, and of all the seasons that would suck the light from the world. And so to mark the limits of my patch, I drive a stake down into the ridge and straight through the heart of winter. That was his garlic poem. Bear. Was it a curator's hype or a shaman's breath misting the glass cases that gave the name Art and Magic to this exhibition of Eskimo artifacts? They are ordinary and exquisite enough for anything, these figurines in whalebone, tusk and driftwood, animals and birds of all types and none. The Tunit who carved them have vanished centuries ago into archaeology and cannot adjudicate on the catalogue that says bear, floating or flying figure. It's easy to see that bone nose etching a huge V on the mirror of Arctic sea, but flying. And still I share the curator's hankering after totems and the journeying of soul. This is no matter. Art is the magic of craftsman and shaman. And this bear's true element is the mind through which it moves, as through a crystal of sea and ice and sky. Well, this is about the Elizabethan massacres in Ireland. Sonnet. The prisoners were penned inside the fort, an open challenge to Elizabeth. So Gray, as Spencer wrote in his report, thought her best served by their exemplary death. Thus Walter Raleigh, captain, part-time poet, was drafted in to organise the work. To pike 600 men was heavy going, but Raleigh thought it out like any clerk. Compiling figures, every man must kill his share, in order that there be no doubt that have to show the carcass to fill the quota Walter Raleigh figured out. The body count worked out at 5 per man. That tidy mind could make a sonnet scan.
Very good, thank you. Apparently the Inuit don't like being called Eskimos. I just wonder
No. Yes.
why they use that. Yeah.
Well, it's an old poem.
Oh, it's an old poem. Yeah, that's
It's an old poem, yes.
Yeah. Okay, we forgive him then. Of its time.
Yes, of its time. He didn't know any better.
No.
Of its time. Stay back.
No, he's gone now. Of its gone. Hopefully we'll have an unmuted Mohammed with us in just a second. I'm really looking forward to it.
I've moved into the back room just so I can get better connectivity.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Mohammed? But we can't hear you because you're muted. Ah.
I think you're going to
Yeah.
appear on the stage
I think
behind me.
it's
Sorry?
yeah. Yeah, it looks like a big stage behind the Nick, and that's where I'm going to go. And during a live performance, suddenly out the air, I'm going to be taken off and a blank screen will appear. My frozen face, you know, totally unreal, but you never know. It could happen. So yeah, I'll try to race through my final two. Yeah, if it doesn't work this time, I don't know. Well, we'll just have to wing it. Okay, so a too hot sun. The sun is hotter now. It burns the skin. Poverty makes us want to conquer the sun. We are all too human. Some are helpless all day. They sleep uneasy because they are abused. When the rains come, there is a threat of flood. Muddy water can choke a child wanting a drink. We are hard of heart sometimes just difficult. That does not make the world's problems go away.
True.
Thank you. The last one is by Kenneth Rexroth. One of my favorite poets. And he wrote quite a lot. He was like the president of the Beat Poets. This is the advantages of learning. I am a man with no ambitions and few friends, wholly incapable of making a living, growing no younger, fugitive from some just doom, lonely, ill-clothed. What does it matter? At midnight, I make myself a jug of hot white wine and cardamom seeds. In a torn grey robe and old beret, I sit in the cold writing poems, drawing nudes on the crooked margins, copulating with 16-year-old nymphomaniacs of my imagination. Right, and that is the end of my session of poems for today.
Well, I'm glad you've managed it, Mohammed. It's excellent.
Have a very happy birthday.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm now going to give you a change from Boris, right? If you could launch a campaign.
Okay, yes. Okay,
right?
So the sooner. Yeah.
If you could launch a campaign in the pouring rain before others can start blaming all on you, if you've lost their trust and the people doubt you, yet you still deny their doubting too, if you can't wait to be condemned for waiting and suspect you'll be rejected when all will know your lies, and being hated end up hating when what you've done don't look too good nor seem too wise, if you can dream that your polls will now rise faster, if you think you can win and retain your power and fame and cast off all thoughts of your looming disaster whilst you look for others who can take the blame, if you can look at the health services you have broken, setting targets you knew could never be met, are you surprised we mock every word now spoken when you fail to build enough cheap houses to fill an average street? If you heap ill-gotten gains and escape with non-dom taxes and never risk the wealth you've hidden in offshore accounts and ensure the law around recovery in future never relaxes, then you need not breathe a word about these vast amounts. If you can keep that cold heart that beats within you and say that immigrants cause the problems of the nation, that it's the fault of the traffickers and the small boats that they crew, you'll think you continue to rule by your division and consternation. If you can talk to crowds without seeming you're their better, and not stay the day on foreign soil to honor those who fell, if you can follow the lockdown rules to the very, if you could not follow the lockdown rules to the very letter, if you propose to cut the benefits of those who are unwell, if you can ask us to forgive you for each unforgiving year, when cost of living increases have been borne throughout your story, then don't expect to get our vote or for us to shed a tear. And what's more, my son, you will have proved to be just another useless Tory. There you go.
I thought you were going to say useless twat there for a second.
No, I was trying to be polite, actually.
Very
But
pertinent.
I think they're
Okay.
interchangeable words, aren't they? Twat and Tory.
Well, I just think you went with Tory because it rhymed. I'm just surprised that that you managed to restrain yourself down to useless instead of the correct adjective.
And I've got one more little poem here, just as it were, not meant. Poetry can't help linking. Here we go. Right, let's mow it down. It's only a cow on the loose and it's damaging cars. That's 2 strikes of the squad cars made now. Where do they recruit these people from? The planet Mars? It seems there are those with a mindset that's immune to suffering and pain, which might explain right from the outset why so few female victims complain, or why the miners were assaulted at Orgreave, and the Hillsborough victims were blamed. The nature of power ignores those in need when the heat of the crisis is blamed. There you go. That's it then. Right. Bit political.
Oh, we all went. I think most of us went a bit political today. It's that kind of time of year.
Yeah.